The beautiful part of that house, literally 360 degrees around you, was all pre-1900, every building. So all the scenes that you see filmed there, there's no cheating. You're in the house, you walk out the front door, onto the porch, and everything you see there is real.
For the Nolan house, what we did was we built a porch around the back corner. That would afford us the ability to go outside doors and go out onto a porch and have vistas into the backyard and so forth. And it had quite a bit of yard space in the back, so we were able to build a servant quarter, which is sort of a two-story double gallery home in New Orleans, where in the early days servants would often live behind the houses. And we also built a exterior kitchen there.
Imagine that this house in that period, the kitchen would have been outside, so all the food's prepared here and it goes into the warming pantry.
Background and action. For each new morning with its light, for rest and shelter of the night.
My favorite set in the whole film was the Nolan house, because to me it's as big a character as Benjamin. And I was able to think about that set in ways that I've rarely been able to think about any other, because it lives, it goes through so many transitions, and every time we come back to that house, it's slightly different. It's just a really fantastic experience and a lot of fun to sort of take a building and make it a character and make it change and evolve and get sad and be joyful.
Here we go. And roll it.
And clearly in a movie like this that's so vast, you can't shoot in sequence. So it was a constant, jumping from decade to decade and era to era.
Just so everyone's on the same page. We do this shot, then we're done with this area for today. We first up tomorrow, depending on the weather.
Let's bring the dark furniture in a little bit.
Logistically, it was tricky. I mean, we were fortunate that we had our storage nearby, and we sort of had every version of the house. We tried to keep it organized and always be able to, okay, we're doing 36 tomorrow, let's bring that in.
Okay, stand by for another rehearsal. As soon as you hear them clap. Okay. And then you cut. Here you go.
Benjamin, might I say you are looking strikingly youthful.
Grandma, look at me.
That was really something. Come over here, you.
Put it. Cut.
Can we just see her on the mark?
Billy. For some reason, the last one you ran like Charlton Heston. I have to have you run a little bit straighter. Here we go. Back to one. Sun's out. Let's go. Here we go.
Watch this. You think you're so great. Can you do that?
Sweet Jesus. Benjamin! Get up from there right now. You are about to break your whole fool neck.
Usually if you're playing a character who ages, you play a small section of it. And the very fact that I'm the voice of Daisy from the age of 6 all the way through to 86, so there's a part of me in every aspect of her, and I pick her up when she's 17. That is an incredible, almost impossible opportunity. So that was the challenge. And not to shy away from the intense self-involvement, the narcissism of youth.
Oh my God, I've just been talking and talking.
No, I've enjoyed listening.
I found that probably the most painful part of the film to inhabit, because, when I look back on myself as a teenager, particularly now I'm a parent, there's something quite abhorrent and self-involved about it that hopefully you move beyond as you get older.
Background.
And so I went to sea.
It was a little bizarre because I'd tell my friends back home and my wife, "Fucking with Brad Pitt," It was like, how was it with Brad today? And no, he wasn't there. It was this guy called Robert with a blue hood on his head.
Did I ever tell you I was struck by lightning 7 times?
Okay. So Jared...
Not quite the eye that you gave me. Was that right?
Okay, no, you're looking at him when he stands up, look at his face, and then look at his feet, and then look back at him like, you got to... Like, what?
The tugboat. It was called the Jupiter, but I think David found out that I was a Manchester United fan, so he changed the boat to the Chelsea. Just to wind me up.
Anybody want to make $2 for a day's work around here? Nobody wants a job.
I do. Got your sea legs about you, old man?
I do. I think.
We shot the tugboat early on, maybe week 1 or 2 in Morgan City. Meanwhile, Don Burt and his crew were back here building enormous sets at Sony.
The ship was 90 feet long, almost 30 feet wide. It's 20 feet in the air by the time you build the base and have it sitting above the trunnion. It's built into a tank that's 20 feet deep. It weighs about 140,000 pounds above the trunnion, not the base, just the actual ship. That was like a movie in itself, just building this entire structure.
Cut. Going again. Hey, Murph. Do one with you pantomiming the gunfire. You want to do the one where the lights panned onto him a little bit more? Yeah. Okay, and Beepo, do one more. You got to pan the light over.
It has to do a multitude of things. It had to be able to just be lazy on the Mississippi River. It had to be able to pitch and roll as if it was on the ocean. Then it had to be able to pitch, roll, and heave as if it was heavier seas, and ultimately when it crashes, it actually has to be able to hit the submarine and ride up out of the water without the stern of the ship dipping below the surface of the water, because it wouldn't look real. The stern of the ship wouldn't just drop below the surface if the front goes up. The bow of the ship would rise up about 20 feet, so we were doing about a meter a second with our lead actor on the bow. At maximum height, he's 40 feet from the concrete below. You're really concerned about safety, function, and realism.
Finally, making a movie about the theme park ride. Finally.
And all the interiors for the tugboats were separate sets. The galley, the bunk area, the wheelhouse, all of those were separate sets, and those were all on gimbals as well, so that we could replicate the movement of the boat.
Most directors aren't like Fincher. Fincher thinks about every prop, every piece of dressing, every flit of hair. You don't get that with most directors. Most directors are looking at the big picture. When you give them a set, it's either working for them or it isn't. And David is looking at what's written in the notebook or what the palette is doing. And while all those things are usually something that a good art department and a good production designer will control and a director will never even notice, David Fincher is not that guy.
Cut it. Get back. Cut.
What is extraordinary about him, from my perspective, is that when somebody has a particular leaning as a director, that usually takes away from another aspect of them as a director. If they're very technically minded, they'll be at the monitor, they'll never come out from it. They're not so focused on the acting, or that's not their strength. Or it's not that it's not their strength, it's not their interest.
I think he's 40% left. 40% in the frame left, and then as the car pulls in.
So for me, what was amazing about him, and also slightly alarming, was that he has all of it. He's not afraid to continue to challenge you. He has very specific ideas.
Can we do one more pickup? Okay, cut, reset, straight away. All right, once again, here we go.
I think people are frightened of him. I think he's got a reputation for, if you're not really brilliant at what you do, you will be found out and I will rip you to shreds, take all your clothes off and beat you with a stick. I think that's unfair. I didn't really see that happen, but he knows what he's doing and you can't really pull the wool over his eyes, and he's quite direct. If someone says they can't do it, he'll go, well, why? And that can be unnerving,
Turn and let me see your look. Okay, step it back.
Work with Mark and retard this.
Okay, Beep, slide 3 inches to your right.
Then we go further?
No, a little bit more left, if anything. Yep.
The thing that David has in spades is rigor. He's a perfectionist, but not for its own sake.
My manager warned me. My agent warned me. I heard other actors talking, man, David does, 40 takes just to open the door. And I'm going, wow, really? I'm kind of getting a little nervous. I was coming down some steps, and the shot was just on my feet. We did that at least 20 times. Of just going down the stairs. Nope. Going down. Nope. not that kind of step, more of this kind of step. Try it like this. And I'm going, wow, like this is really specific, but I got it because, you know, he's telling the story even down to the feet.
I think the bench has to go camera left a little bit. Greg, 6 inches, camera left.
Camera left on the bench, 6 inches, please.
Stop, camera left. Other leg, stop. Right hand there.
I didn't count most of the time how many takes I'm taking. He's the director, he knows what he wants. If you don't give it to him, then, you know, if it means that he drills it out of you, then why not?
You gotta do what you're meant to do. And they happen to be a goddamned artist.
You're a tugboat captain.
I've done lots of independent films and you get like 3 takes or something, barely. They actually hardly can afford to do 1 take, you know, on some of these things now. So I loved it. You don't get to act that often as an actor. You know, most of the time you spent waiting. I loved the amount of time, the amount of takes. He'd let you go until you felt that you were happy, he was happy, you know. I loved it.
Most times in film, you get your takes and you go away and it's like, God, I wish I could have tried it this way. But with David, you have enough time to try it as many ways possible.
Finch lets you go through the whole gamut. Like, so if it's like, you know, You're My Son, it goes from, it would go, we did like 30 takes and using it as an example of the scenes, but I'd be like, You're my son, all the way down to You're my son. And the whole arch that takes you through. So you get to try it in every single way, and then Finch just takes the 35th take, which was the really simple one, which you probably should have done in the first place. But he kind of lets you exercise your need to act.
So Taraj, you can go a teeny bit slower. Yeah, 0.8%. We are rolling.
You do the math.
And action. No. She really gets up ahead of speed. And the sun came out. Okay, here we go one more time. TJ, you left a little bit early. Let him get a little bit over to the pile of leaves. Let him go like another 10 feet. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we lost her there. That it?
I'm being called into the principal's office. Come.
Now what is that? I'll take that one. We can do better. Here we go. Once again.
Teamwork.
We did 2 weeks of makeup tests with Taraji and Ali and Kate and Brad. That's one thing you have to do with makeup, which was so nice on this, is they gave us time to test.
They started telling me horror stories about these big muscle guys that came in and they would pour the molding over and they would start to panic and like shake and they would have to take them out of the mold. And I said, well, you know, I really just want to do this process once, so I'm going to be really still. If I start to panic, I will just find a way to work through it.
If you're not really a method actor, to really transform through makeup and costume and hair is really good fun to do. I had like, I think it was 8 prosthetic pieces. However the patchwork was, it was 8 pieces. And Finch was always come to the test and he'd be like, yeah, the forehead is kind of ridiculous though. And I was like, that's my forehead. And he was like, what? I went, that's the only bit that's actually me. And he'd be like, oh, okay.
This works good. The blends work excellent. It's just this chin. Every time it's bad. I mean, it's
almost spongy.
It's a little bit, yeah.
We'd take Brad over at 62, and that was the full silicone makeup with the transfer forehead and upper lip. I did him that stage, and then I did 58, and then down to 56, and 52, and 48. I did him down to about 45. And at that stage, I was just doing a little stipple here and there, just slightly age him, which is where you take the skin and put on the aging rubber, and you powder it and creates wrinkles in their own skin. To take all of those stages and make them work together, the little differences you have to do, the coloring matching and the age spots matching every day, it's insane.
Each character has its own reality, and as long as everyone's part of that reality, that's what you buy, I think.
Right. Kate, she ages the most. We took her from the 40s to 85. And the 85 makeup was very difficult because it's 14 appliances. And the transfer on that forehead covered her eyebrows because we thought it looked really good without eyebrows because we really wanted to look sickly at that point. She has these incredible cheekbones. They're just amazing, and it's the hardest age makeup I've ever done in my life because you can't put age into them. If I tried putting any lines into it, it just looked ridiculous. So I ended up basically keeping them the same and trying to put all the age down around the mouth and into the neck.
And I think I would go there anyway. Yeah. That's my stretch point. Yeah.
The great thing about Kate, she's so professional and everything that she's like, can we put more lines in here so I look sadder, you know, and more wrinkles?
If someone's wearing a bad wig or they have terrible makeup, prosthetic pieces on their face, you don't believe a single thing that comes out of their mouth. And this film is about life.
Rolling.
You go on the journey of a man from his strange birth to his death. And you need to know that the parallel physical aging process that's being done by the makeup artists is as great as Brad's performance is, which it absolutely was.
In the film, the scene takes place in Paris. And the closest thing that looked like Paris that anyone could find, location department could find, was Montreal.
Ready, and action!
Shooting in Paris, one, is expensive because of the euro is killing us. And two, logistically, it's difficult. It makes shooting in downtown Manhattan seem easy in a lot of ways. Our scope, how much control we needed, we're talking cars, it's the costumes, it's people, it's closing down blocks and blocks of sections of old Montreal, which is much tighter than the French Quarter. It's not something the city was real keen to doing, but assisted in any way, shape, or form that they could. But we needed a lot of people and a decent amount of money to pull it off. To me, it reinforced how much easier I had it in the French Quarter after Katrina, because here a place that was untouched by any disaster was just as dense, and I needed just as much control. And I think we shot 8 days there, and I personally was there prepping for almost 2 months. Other than that, wonderful people, and it looked beautiful, and they were all happy to see us go.
And in the Russian sequences, it's supposed to be snowing. So I go, great, we're going to be in Montreal. It's cold in Montreal. So we fly up there for the first scout and realize that we're going to be shooting in the tourist part of the town, the old part of town, that you can't do anything to the town because of pollution or residual or any effect it might have on the downtown area. So the normal paper products or some of the foam product we would use that expedite all this so you can make this happen quicker can't be done. So we did the entire thing in real crushed ice. Some foam that we were allowed to use in background sequences and some poly product that we could put along the sills as long as we vacuumed it all up so none of it got into the drain system.
That's what I'm saying, don't. Go back to base and talk to Brad. See how things are going. Give me a half an hour. It's 7:15. Just trust me. Be the best for both of us.
So that was daunting enough that we're going to have to bring in hundreds of tons of ice and crush it and place it in multiple locations on the same day. And then when we actually go to film the sequence, we have all the manpower in place, truckload after truckload, a 40-foot truckload of ice trucks, 3 ice grinding machines, double crews. It's in May, and it's 90-something degrees in the daytime. It's 70-something at night. It's t-shirt weather at night in Montreal in May, and the ice is melting. So we're constantly between takes, have to refresh the ice, grind more. And as it's melting away, you're trying to cover it up. And David's trying to jokingly say, world's most expensive wet down. Hey, Bert, why is your ice melting? Well, it's hot, that's why.
It's Murmansk, Russia at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Hey guys, Claire, get out of the shot.
The Winter Palace Hotel, the exterior, we actually filmed that in Montreal, in the old city. And then we used that exterior as a template for an interior build here in Los Angeles, with a working elevator and a dining room and a kitchen and a bar.
Where did Brad go? Well, you've already done everything. No, I didn't.
They're all exposed, practical elevators. They were designed and built by the Art Department of Construction, but the function, that's our job. And there's a lot of dialogue in these, so they had to run quietly. They had to run at the speed we wanted. Let's say the dialogue is going on and it's ending on the wrong word by a half a second. Reprogram it to be a half a second faster, half a second slower.
The hotel needed to be a place of former glamour, a place stuck in time, much like Elizabeth Abbott. but still romantic and melancholy and appropriate as a place for Benjamin to have his first serious love affair with an older woman who thought she was with an older man.
So we're going to go right from you sitting and then dissolve and you'll be asleep.
I think so, right?
Okay, then that's fine.
Is that 2-7?
But no, I think it should be something that can evolve in and dissolve into. Just slouch over thinking about it, and then we can dissolve and you'll be asleep. You know what I mean?
All right.
Just sort of has some kind of
Fantastic.
screen direction to it.
The way his mind works.
In order to create a believable environment for the actors, I like to take closets and drawers and rooms that are sort of on the set but not intended to be played any action in, and finish them so that we could be in Los Angeles at Sony on stage and still have this vibe of this romantic, lost in time, small little hotel in northern Russia. It's not a matter of overdressing. It's sort of a matter of just really wanting to walk away and say, when they're in there, they're in the Winter Palace Hotel.
And Crazy Irish Ranch.
Check his hair.
Rip Van Einstein.
Looks like it's on fire.
Looks like Barbara Bush. Let's go with it.
The thing that I found fascinating about shooting digitally, which I hadn't done before, is that you develop a different performance rhythm. And I think I'd been used to the celluloid rhythm where you do a take or two, you stop to reload, the actors decompress, sometimes they go back to their trailer because it's going to be, there's a malfunction with the camera. Whereas once you were on set with this film, you stayed there the whole time, which meant that it was more like a theatre rehearsal, and oftentimes we would shoot the rehearsals. So it wasn't necessarily that we did take after take after take, it's just that we harnessed the rehearsal time into the performance time.
I want this. I want it with you.
I won't deny you that.
I want to be a father. I want to be a father. I don't want to be somebody's bird.
We had been talking about doing Benjamin Button long before Babel, and actually before The Fountain, because Kate was originally going to do The Fountain with Brad. And so, as my movie would fall apart, I would, somebody would say, hey, did you hear? Brad's doing this movie with Darren Aronofsky. And I'd say, oh, great, yeah, with Kate Blanchett. And I'd be like, and then that would fall apart. And I'm sorry about that, Darren. But gleefully. And then came Babel, which when I saw, I didn't think was treading anywhere near in the area of Benjamin Button.
But that's not just the problem, it's also this, this, and this. It's not a
The rapport that they have was very much like siblings. Well, he's totally juvenile, which is, of course, why we get along. And she is so prepared and thoughtful, and she's taken notes, and she's done this and that. So they're wonderful together. They're just so easy.
You don't turn his opinion of it. It's just, if we're going to acknowledge it, let's acknowledge it. Here's the thing. It scares the shit out of me. I don't want to create my own babysitter. I don't want to create a burden for somebody else.
Isn't that what it is? It's an elaboration on that thought.
I think that I'm going a different way. It can be the thing that leads into we all end up in diapers. Doesn't matter which direction we go.
We all end up in diapers.
No, how do I not become a burden to this?
The feeling out process was way over. So in that way, I was glad that they were in Babel, even if it was kind of the pairing of them was really my idea.
And roll, please. We're rolling.
In between my movies with Brad, I forget how just stupid the world is around and about him. I guess because I know how uncomfortable it makes him, I guess I just sort of hope that it's receding or in some way diminishing, because it certainly doesn't make his life any easier or any more enjoyable.
And then door opens, boom.
We were shooting this commercial in downtown LA. It was the middle of the night, and we'd shut down most of the street. And I was talking to Brad as he sort of stepped off this curb, and these two women who were walking were intent in their conversations, and they realized that they were about to run into somebody, and they both turned and they looked at him, and they both dropped to their knees screaming. And he sort of reached, I think he thought he had tripped them or something. He sort of reached over to touch them, and they both sort of recoiled from him screaming. And then they got up, and then they stood there unable to move, screaming. These weren't 17-year-olds. These were late 20s, early 30s.
Okay, here we go once again.
These are responsible adults. These are not
And it was just, it was horrible.
Cut. Very nice.
Camera right. Keep going. There you go. I need somebody there. And
Kate is so stunning to look at that you can literally lose minutes where you just find yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. I came to your trailer and I was going to talk to you about this thing, and I can't remember what it is. So I'll come back. You know, you literally lose like moments of your life where you're just sort of.
You have speed?
Yes.
And action.
I think it's a girl.
And cut. Very nice.
So, Kate, do you think, so it doesn't, I guess it doesn't bum you out at all that he doesn't chime in with like, yeah, that's great. No, I guess not, 'cause you're just riding, because the next scene is basically.
The next.
No, I know, in the next scene you're gonna say, I'm not gonna, I want this more than anything, so I wish I could have reservations about it, but I don't have any. You know what I mean?
No, I think I do. But
Yeah.
it's just, I think there's so many beats where I could play.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many of these little vignettes where it's like, you sort of think
No,
sometimes
no,
you're
no,
like-
I'm not looking for that. I'm just wondering, I kind of like the idea that you're so on top of the wave that maybe you don't even sense
I see sense and trying to bring him.
back.
Yeah.
Trying to
I
bring
see
him
what
back
it is he's looking at.
instead of.
And I think, come on. And then what happens is over a course of months, if this continues on, so then we have to have dinner and say, okay, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Okay, I can deal with that.
So the diner sequence though is shortly hereafter, maybe a week later or something, and it's. I don't think that it's okay. Wait a minute. What's the deal? It's. I can see that you're troubled.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, believe me, I am not trying to hide it at all." And you say, "I got enough enthusiasm, and I want this enough for both of us."
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I can't kind of see it as the glass half empty, like
Because
you do.
the very fact that I'm looking at what he's looking at means that I'm registering the problem.
But I also think you can see it in two different ways, which is sometimes it's wonderful to do things that you're not necessarily comfortable with because they show you great new things. So I look across the aisle and I go, that's going to be great for you. That's going to be
Yeah,
great.
and I think
Yeah.
like we were saying, the power of my positivity is that I can just drag him along with me.
Yeah.
Because in the diner scene, it's not like I.
You're the sperm donor I want.
Yes.
Okay, good. Here we go.
And
As I was watching, I was thinking, you know, they are something special. They really, to look at, they are beautiful, beautiful people. And when he finally croaks looking at her old face, that will be irony.
The first rule they tell you if you're going to write a love story is how are you going to keep them apart at the end. So you get them together, it's like, you know, so what? You know, we have to have this sort of yearning that goes on.
I don't want to see anybody together. I want to see everybody as unhappy as me.
What are you thinking?
I was thinking how nothing lasts.
Everyone in this movie dies. So, of course, that's how I was able to stomach all the rest of it.